Everybody, and welcome back to yet another fun and exciting geometry class. Today we're going to be in lesson number 4.21 and 4.22. That is found on page 225 and 226. And we're going to do two more constructions, just like we did in the last video. These constructions are, the first one is similar, the second one's just a little bit different. So look down here at the screen, and what I say is in construction number 19, again, that is on page 225, we're going to construct the mean proportional of two given lines. What is the mean proportional? Talked about it just a little bit in the last video, but a mean proportional is when the second and third terms of the proportion are equal. So if you have something like this, 1 over 2 equals 2 over 4. When these two terms right here, so that's like, this is like the first term, this is the second term, this is the third term, and this is the fourth term, okay? So when the second and third are the same, okay, then we have what's called a mean proportional. What does it mean to be the same? I mean, we're talking the exact same number. So they both have to be 2. They both have to be 4. All right. So in other words, what we're saying is it's almost like we could cross this off and we could put an x right here and an x right here. Okay. And we could solve this. How do you solve this? Well, we do the means times the extremes. So we get x times x equals 1 times 4. Or x squared equals 4. We would then take the square root of both of those, and we would end up with x equals 2. Technically positive negative 2, but we're dealing with geometry distance here, so we only need the positive value since you can't have negative distance in geometry. So the answer would be 2. So we just figured it out. I already told you the answer was 2, but you can also do it so you can figure it out. So in other words, what we can do when we're constructing this is if we put these two together, kind of like the known ones, and then we can figure out the unknown ones from the known quantities. So let's go ahead and swap over here to this construction screen. And what we want to do, let's just put a line down here. It doesn't, it can be any distance that we want to make it. So we'll just put a big line down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to put these lines from up here. We're actually going to go ahead and measure them out. And we're going to put those on our line down here. So let's make a mark here. And then we'll go ahead and get this distance. And we're going to make this line right here. And I'll go ahead and label this up for you. I haven't labeled it yet. So this is going to be, let's go with blue. And we'll call this one A, and we'll call this one B. So then this would be the A segment, and this would be the B segment right here. We'll label these up with capital letters too. So we'll call this A. And then we'll call this one B over here. We don't really need to label up this point, really. All right, here we go. Let's come over here, and what we want to do is we want to take, and again, we're dealing with the whole line. We're not just dealing with this point. So we want to come to more than halfway. So our halfway point is from here to here, okay? This is not the halfway point. So we could kind of bring it back over here just a little bit. That'll be fine. That's more than halfway. And what we want to do is we want to put a mark here. What we're doing right now is we're bisecting this line. So let's bring him over here and we'll put a mark here. And then we'll come up here. Again, we're bisecting the line. So we're going to come up here from these points, and you can kind of make this whatever you want. All right, and we'll put a mark down here, and we'll put a mark up here. Remember, we're bisecting this line. So then we'll come back over here. We'll do the same thing with this guy. And we're looking for that X marks the spot right there, because that's going to tell us where our line is bisected from. Okay, now we're going to take our straight edge and we're going to draw our line through there. All right, so I've got it lined up, and I really don't have to connect the whole thing. I can. You don't need to. I only need this point right here. Okay, this is my midpoint. This is my midpoint of what? Of AB. Okay, what is AB? AB is line A, that's this one right here, and line B, that's this one right here. And now I've cut that line in half. It's very important that the first thing you do is you find the midpoint. In fact, let's write that down. So step number 1, we want to find the midpoint. And that's important that we do that. If we don't do that, we can't do the rest of the construction, okay? So we found the midpoint. Now what do we want to do? Step number 2, we want to draw a semicircle from the midpoint. So come over to your midpoint, and we're going to put now our compass on the point B, and that also should be on point A when we come over here, right? Because we're at the midpoint. So it should be close, if not perfect. And we're going to draw an arc right there. We want to draw our arc all the way around, okay? So a semicircle. So step number 2 is to draw our semicircle. And let's write that down as well. So step number 2 is we want to draw a semicircle. All right, so we jump back over here. Now what do we want to do? What's the last step of this? Now this is where that point that we made where the A and B come together, that's where this point is finally going to come into play. So I'll go ahead and label that point. We'll call this point, I think your book calls it point D. All right, so point D. What we want to do is we want to come over here to point D. And all we want to do here at point D is we want to draw like a little inner, like a little semicircle. We want to draw a perpendicular at point D. Okay. So the way that we would do that is we would draw our arc right there, and then we would come up here and we would again kind of lock this in, and we're going to just draw our little X up top. So we'll put a little mark there, and then we'll come over to this side of our little semicircle, and we will finish off our little arc. All right, so there's our little arc above D. So now what we do is we get our straight edge out again, and we want to connect D. We want a perpendicular line running through D. Okay, now check this out. I'm going to change the color right here so you can see this. We'll make this red so it kind of matches what we've already been doing. And we're going to go from point D all the way up through our little X right there until it touches the circle, that semicircle that we drew. Now this, when we go from D all the way up to here, we'll call this point, we'll call this C right up here, okay? So this line CD is the mean proportional, okay? So let's go back here and write that down. So step number 3, we are going to draw a perpendicular, and I'll put through D. Okay, I'll put that in quotes so you know that it's through D. Okay, so that's what we did back over here. We drew our perpendicular through D, and where it touches the circle, CD is the mean proportional. So I'll write that down real quick. That CD, line CD, is the mean proportional. All right, let's look at construction 20 real quick on page 226. This is very challenging for me to draw on the computer, but I'm going to do my best. So construction 20, to construct a polygon similar to the given polygon with one given side. So here's our polygon, and we want to take this polygon right here, and we want to shrink it down so that this is, we're going to call this A prime, B prime, okay? So this line is now this line. It's kind of shrunken down just a little bit. So our new polygon is going to be a little bit smaller than our original polygon was. How are we going to do this? Well, the first thing that we want to do is we want to just take and we want to make some what's called auxiliary lines in this thing. What does that mean? We're just going to take and we're going to draw some lines in our shape. So we're going to draw a line here, and we're going to draw a line here. So in other words, what we do is we make some triangles, okay? And you're going to need to do that. So some students think, oh, I can do it by just kind of measuring or doing this. You can't. There's no other way to do it. So you have to draw the triangles to start. So first draw your auxiliary lines in your original shape. Now what we can do is we can start copying some angles. So again, this is fairly difficult for me to do. I can't do it on the other program. I'm going to have to do it on here and just show you what I'm doing. So we're going to take, and I'm going to do this I'll do the angles in blue. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this right here. Okay, we're going to copy B over here. So I'll make my little line, right? And then I want to go ahead and I'm going to take my compass and I'm going to measure that, okay? And so wherever it comes right here, let's say. Now what I would do, what I would do is I would just draw a line. So let me just draw a purple line here from B. And again, this is not going to be perfect. And I can draw it all the way up. I don't have to stop, okay? So I'm just going to draw it up because I don't know where to stop, right? I don't know how long this line is. You might say, well, let me just measure this line and that's how long this is. Well, how do you know that AB and BC are the same length? We don't know that. Okay, nobody ever told us that. They might be, but they might be different. So we don't know where to stop this line because, again, we're making it proportional. That's why we need this line right here. Then I'm going to come over and I'm going to copy this angle, angle A right here. I'm going to copy it right in here, okay? So I would draw my arc, okay? And then I come over and I'd measure my arc. So wherever it is, measure your arc. And then you're going to take and you're going to draw your auxiliary line coming through that spot. So, I'll put my arc, I'll measure it somewhere right here. Again, it's not going to be perfect. I'm just kind of drawing lines to show you where to put things. And then I would take my line and I would connect it through, and that's where this line, see, wherever this line lands, that's where this line goes to, okay? And then I would do the same thing and I would keep moving around the shape. So where can I go to next? Well, now that I know this line up here, I could measure my C angle. So I could come up here to C and I could put my arc here, and then I could go ahead and, put my little arc here, and I could measure this, and I would measure this, and then wherever that falls, that would be my next line that would come through. So I'd go from this point up here, and I could let that one go through again. Don't have to end it anywhere because now I need another auxiliary line. So which one do I need next? Well, I need this angle right here, this A angle in here. So now I need to come over here and I need to measure this and cut this. And then this tells me where to put my next line coming up through. Okay, so my next line is going to be, let's say, right here. Okay, and as I keep going around that shape, I'm going to continue to get my new shape perfectly, well, as perfectly as we can do. I obviously can't on my program, but you will have a lot more success on your paper because you'll be measuring it with your compass, right? Every time you'll be measuring everything out just right, and you'll get your lines all to fall in there. And so that's how to do the similar shape of any given polygon. You could do any given polygon that way and get it to give you a similar shape. So that's all I've got there. Hope you learned something. Make sure you practice these. These are not easy, so go practice them. Go back to the video, go back and forth where you're learning the different steps and what to do next so that you can do these on your quizzes and tests that are coming up. Okay? That's all I've got for you. Hope you learned something. We'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.